everybody, it's Kimberly. I'm an eternal life student, which simply means human. At the end of the day, that really is the only title that we need. I think people are like walking books. We each have our own stories to share, and by talking together, we can learn more and we can grow stronger. Today, I have a guest speaker. His name is Roby Chalmers, if I said it correctly. And he is going to discuss the Sporozoan Swarm Project and a little bit about his history with us. Hey, Roby, how are you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I
Thank you for,
am good. Oh, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
of course.
This is going to be a very interesting discussion, and I really hope that people are going to learn a lot from you and support you as well. So, if you could tell us a little bit about where you're from and more about the Sporozoan Swarm Project, that'd be great.
Sure. Okay. So I'm Rob Roy, and I'm originally from a little town in northern New York, but I've always been a New York City boy. I currently live in Seattle. Long story, which I'm not going to go into now. But the Sporozoan Swarm, which is what I'm here to talk about today, actually comes from my move from New York to Seattle. In 2008, I moved with my daughter and my now ex-wife from New York to Seattle. And as you all recall, 2008 was a tough time financially. And we got here just in time for all the crap to hit the fan. We were both out of work, and I was wandering around, and as the eternal artist that I am, I was looking for a place to show, and I just happened upon a little shop, and I showed them some of my work, and they were super excited about it, but I didn't have anything that wasn't in storage, except for one portfolio full of prints. And I didn't really want to show them the way they were, so I decided to start tearing them up and pinning them on the wall so that people could have little pieces, they get little pieces of my artwork. Well, that ended up turning into what it has become today, which is a sculptural object that is made out of my prints, my intaglio prints that I've torn up and turned into something else. So it basically started in about 2009, which is when I first started doing it. But even before that, I've been doing a lot of printmaking work, and I've been doing a lot of kind of free floating sculptural type objects with my prints. So it's been something that's been evolving for a long time. And it's gotten to the point where there's a huge amount of this thing out there in the world. There's probably about, 15,000 little tiny pieces on pins out in the world somewhere. And my goal is for there to be somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million of these little things out there somewhere. Now, they come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes, but they're all made of the same thing. They're all made from my prints. They're all made from intaglio etchings. And go ahead.
It's an actual image on these little pieces of paper that it's been cut up into different sections?
Yeah. So I'll grab one of the container boxes. So basically you can see inside the box, there's a whole bunch of little prints. So those are all my prints that I've torn up into smaller pieces. And what I do is I create images with the small pieces. I create shapes and forms. And basically, I call it the Sporozoan Swarm because of my daughter.
Really?
To be honest, because she used to, when she was younger, she would come with me when I would do installations at different places. And one of the ones that I did she was probably about 6 maybe when we were doing this, and she was like, Daddy, it looks like a little swarm of ants that you're making on the wall. So hence the swarm part, and so that's kind of where that came from. But they do take these shapes and these kind of forms of movement, organic movement.
Do you pre-plan it, or you feel it when you do each one?
I wouldn't call it pre-planning, but when I walk into a space, I basically see what I want to do.
Okay.
But that, so a lot, some of it has to do with how I feel about the space, how the space interacts with me, and how I interact with the space, and how I'll have a tendency to go and watch a space for a little while and just see how people interact with it to begin with.
Okay.
And that helps me figure out like what I need to do with the space to best engage my audience. Because for me, the Sporozoan is about visualization and how people interact with art and how time affects their interaction with art. So I use the term Sporozoan because it is a type of fungus that's extremely invasive, and it hooks onto something, and then it rides along, and then it grows there.
Okay.
Which I know sounds like awful levels, but what I found is as I was installing these in public spaces, people would stop and they would look and they would look, and then they would walk away, and then an hour later they'd come back and ask a question. So I was like, oh, it's like it's catching their eye. They don't know what to say, don't know what to how to react, but then they do a little while later. So that's where the Sporozoan part comes from, because it's something that doesn't immediately grasp you.
Right.
It's something
that draws you in.
Yes, exactly. And in a good way, because it's, when people come back and ask me about it, it's never because they're upset or anything like that. It's always because they're like, oh, I was thinking about that. It was so interesting to watch you do this or whatever. And why are you doing it? All these things. So it starts a conversation about art, about performance, about a lot of different things in life. And for me, that's super important, like engaging with people. And I mean, I'm a lifelong learner. So being on your podcast is excellent.
Yeah.
I'm a student.
Right. Learning together, right? Sharing your message.
Exactly. And I love discussing all these things with people, just chatting, and because it leads you to bigger and better things.
Definitely.
So that's kind of that's it in a nutshell. The project is a small component of an even larger project that is the Sporozoan project, which contains 5 different pieces to it, which I won't go into today. But basically, what I'm trying to do, I started this Kickstarter thing because I want to focus on making the work. I need the time to make the prints,
right,
in order to have the raw material to make the thing.
Right.
So
that's what that it's not something you just throw together. You have to feel it. It takes time. You're passionate about it. You need your skill set. It's not just a print that you go buy from somewhere.
Right, exactly. Right? And anyone who's done intaglio printmaking knows that it is not a fast process
Mhm.
at all to make intaglio prints. I mean, I'll show you one of the plates. So
Okay.
basically it's a copper plate that
Oh, wow.
you either etch or draw onto with different types of tools.
Mhm.
And then you ink that plate, you put ink on, and you wipe ink off, and then you run it through a press on damp paper, and it releases the print onto the paper. It's not an easy process.
Right.
It's a process that I love, though. And I love making the imagery on the plates.
Mhm.
Um, so
It takes a lot
yeah,
of time. Yeah.
yeah, it takes a lot of time, and the farther away we go from these types of arts,
Yes.
the harder it is to find the press that
Mhm.
you need to print on. The more people that want to be on that particular press, because there's less and less and less of them available.
Right.
So yeah, it takes time, it takes money, there's a lot going on.
Right,
Um,
definitely.
and if I had the space, I would have my own press,
Mhm.
but I just don't have that kind of money, and I don't have that kind of space to have
Right.
my um so
So
so that,
you are what you're trying to do now is you're doing a Kickstarter, right? Where you're trying to
yep,
have people sponsor, donate, or help to continue your art project, uh,
yes.
right?
Yeah, exactly. The Kickstarter is, as many of you know, Kickstarter is an all or nothing thing. So you either make your goal or you don't. If you don't make the goal, then you don't get anything. It's not like GoFundMe where you get whatever you gain. And the reason I did Kickstarter rather than GoFundMe is just because I think it does create a sense of urgency,
Hmm.
and it gives you a really strong um, sense of like, I need to have this amount of money because I need to do this, and I want, and I have a budget
Right.
for the amount I'm looking for. Um, and I like the idea of crowdfunding because lots of people throwing in a little bit of a pledge can be, it's uplifting for everyone involved.
Definitely. I
So
always like to say we're stronger together, right?
exactly,
And
exactly.
that's it. We just support each other and help each other with our dreams. And also, art is so important. It's something part of the history. It's something for people to learn from each other and grow from it. And that's a piece of what you want to share, right?
Completely. I do. And I, I always go back to my daughter.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, I mean, she's 17 now. And she still loves coming into Dad's studio and talking to me about what I'm making. And she's excited to tell her friends about that her dad's an artist and these kinds of things. And I think that's awesome.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
and she's also excited that I don't just do paintings and prints and sculpture, but I do performance, and I do all sorts of different things.
Yeah,
So I
multi-talented.
well, it's the lifelong learner, the
Yeah,
eternal student, right?
yeah.
Um, because if you kind of let yourself kind of fade and
Hmm.
not keep learning, yeah,
Nothing
you're
changes, right? You just stay the same.
yeah, exactly. And you're never going to evolve. And one of the things that my work has always done is it's always evolved.
Right.
I mean, I certainly have a style, and people can tell they can see that it's me. They
Right.
know it's me, but it's not the same as it was 10 or 15 years ago or anything like that. It has changed.
You're
Um,
evolving.
yeah, exactly, as we all should.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, okay, so I'm gonna jump a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And we were talking that it's not just this one project. You have smaller things like swarm containers as well,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah. So the swarm containers came about because initially when I started this project, people wanted me to send them pieces of it, like small pieces. So
Okay.
I would send the prints and the pins so that they could put it on the wall themselves.
Okay.
And, well,
It didn't
people
work.
didn't, they would get the stuff and they're like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yes. That's where your
So
specialty comes in.
yeah, exactly. So basically what I did was I started making what I call the swarm containers. So I make a frame, and then I do the work for you, right?
Okay.
So I put it in here, or the way I would do it.
Okay.
Uh, and people really liked that. Um, there are, I can't remember the exact number of swarm containers out there, but it's something like 438 of
Nice.
them or something like that to date.
Very nice.
So they've been a very popular thing. And they come in all sorts of different sizes. But I make the entire thing. I don't buy pre-made frames or anything like that. Like I make the frame, I make everything.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's important because the even the frame becomes part of that's.
Oh wow.
Uh-oh, I lost you.
I'm
Did I
here.
lose you?
Oh, there you are. I got you. Hello. Can you hear me?
Okay.
All right, we're back. It's okay.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Where did I
I
fall out?
heard you.
Okay,
I
we're
heard
back.
you say that you
Yeah.
even make the wooden frame and it's part of it, right? The frame itself is part of it.
Right. Exactly. Well, I you know I'm in. Yeah, I lost you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, I can.
Okay, we're good. Let's try.
There we go. That's
It
better.
happens. This happens sometimes. It's
Right.
life.
Exactly. So where did I cut out?
You said that you make the actual frames themselves too, and that it's kind of part of it.
Right. Oh, okay. So you got everything
Yes.
I said. Yeah. Awesome.
Now, are
Yeah.
these boxes, are they just miniaturized like miniaturized of the actual big Sporozoan swarm, or are they different?
Yeah. In a way, you could. So, say for instance, you wanted multiples of the swarm containers. I do make them so that they kind of piece together
Okay.
and they create a larger whole.
Okay.
So that the thing is designed in my mind to be a a, a an immense mass. And the reason why is because I want this project to connect people.
Yes.
When I first started doing this, it was, and this is going to age me really, really quickly. Not that gray hair hasn't already done
Aw.
so. When I first started, Flash was still a thing, and I had made a flash map that allowed people when they received their swarm container or their swarm, they could take a picture of where it landed in their house and upload it to the flash map, and then they could see other people's pieces on the map. And it was really cool because then those people could talk to each other, like they could meet each other based on the artwork itself. And it was funny because some of them were sharing stories of, oh, I got mine and I didn't get it in a swarm container. Mine was just a free floating one and I have no
Oh.
idea what to do. And like, so all these weird little stories happen.
Right.
And it felt really good.
Yeah.
I was connecting people through art, and people from all sorts of different places, like all around the country, all around the world, all kind of talking about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a really, that made me feel good, because that's exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to connect people, and I wanted them to have conversations and start friendships and acquaintanceships based on this and on their mutual affection for the artwork.
Yeah.
So
Sounds like you have already started that journey with everybody, and hopefully, it'll just grow bigger and bigger. Imagine
yeah,
how many more people.
I know,
If
I
you
know.
if you get that goal, just imagine how many more, right?
Oh, exactly,
That would be
exactly.
great.
Well, I'm actually really excited.
Oh, I lost. Are you there? Oh, I think you're frozen.